Hello everyone, and welcome back to another season of Discovery Hunter video. With Phase 2 just around the corner, it's time to take a look over BiS for hunters, the talent builds associated with level 40, and the rune setup. Phase 2 hunters will see quite a significant change compared to Phase 1, largely due to the new runes provided to us, so this guide is focused more around a melee hunter style of play, as it is expected to perform much better than it did in Phase 1. Ranged Hunters BiS and Phase 1 BiS will be releasing shortly after this video, so stay tuned for those as well. As always, with my BiS and BiS guides, we will start by taking a look over the gear set as a whole, and then take a look over the gear slots individually and provide alternatives to the best option. Lastly, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Flory for creating his own sim and now partnering with WoW Sims to finally get hunters on track for a usable sim. Starting with the gear set as a whole, we have Artemis Cowl for the helm, Sentinel's Medallion or Scout's Medallion for the neck, Failed Flying Experiment for the shoulders, Dark Hooded Cape for the cloak, Blaze Wind Breastplate for the chest, Forest Stalker's Bracers for the bracer slot, Protector's Sword or Legionnaire's Sword for the main hand, Vanquisher's Sword for the offhand, Gauntlets of Divinities for the gloves, Ogron's Sash for the belt, Dragonflight Leggings for the legs, Blackforge Greaves for the boots, Protector's Band or Legionnaire's Band, and Mason's Fraternity Ring for the ring slots, Avenger's Void Pearl for the first trinket, Minor Recombobulator for the second trinket, and finally Blood Lash Bow for the range slot. For the talent builds, you have two main options right now, and both are still likely to change early on in the phase, as I expect some class changes or nerfs to happen quite soon into the Phase 2 release. Boss fight lengths will also make quite a big difference in what spec you decide to play. For the first option, you have the 0031 survival build. This talent build is highly reliant on a few things, such as having a second hunter in your raid group to provide aspect of the line so that you can run the lone wolf rune, therefore making beast mastery talents useless. Your second option is the exact opposite, and instead will be a 3100 beast mastery talent build, and will utilize a pet and aspect of the line, which will also be favored by shorter fight lengths. Now, quickly glancing over the runes, for your chest rune, you will be using either Lone Wolf or Aspect of the Line depending on your talent build, Flanking Strike for the legs, Carve for the gloves, Melee Specialist for the waist, and finally Dual Wield Specialization for your boots. Now that we've covered the gear set as a whole, talent builds, and runes, let's dive into each gear slot individually and look at some options, as acquiring full BiS is more or less a joke, and using optional pieces is perfectly fine and won't put you far behind by any means. Starting with the helm, your best option is Artemis Cowl. If you did not pick this helm up in Phase 1 and instead had Twilight Slayer's Cowl, then continue to use Twilight Slayer's Cowl until level 40. If you had neither of these helms coming out of Phase 1, then you could just opt for a Nightscape headband, as it's an easy pickup from a leatherworker. Lordwreck Helmet is also a potential option, but it is locked behind quite a difficult quest for level 40, but it's definitely doable with a group. The next slot is pretty much a freebie for everybody. Sentinel's Medallion for Alliance and Scout's Medallion for the Horde. It's just an upgraded version from our level 25 neck and easily obtainable by everybody, so there's no point in worrying about alternatives for this gear slot. Assuming you did a little bit of PvP in Ashen Vale, you should be set. For the shoulders, we use Failed Flying Experiment. These shoulders will definitely require some help, as they are a quest reward from the Chicken Escort in Feralas. While these are relatively easy to obtain, if you really want an easier alternative, you can just purchase or craft a pair of Nightscape shoulders if you are leatherworking. Forest Tracker's epaulets are technically your second best option, but being a rare BOE item, they will cost way more than they are worth, considering you can get a better option from a quest. For the cloak, we will want to use Dark Hooded Cape. This is a rare BOE drop from Nymar the Slayer in Arathi Highlands, and will most likely be camped a lot, so if you have the excess gold, just go ahead and buy it from the auction house. If you want to opt for something that will definitely be cheaper and easier to obtain, you can just pick up a parachute cloak if you're an engineer, or buy an Imperial cloak. The chest slot is up next, and this will be an interesting slot for both BiS and Phase 2 BiS, depending on what Blizzard decides to do. Blazewind Breastplate is by far the best option to pick up, but locked behind a very difficult elite quest in the Badlands. You can most likely solo this quest if you are a very experienced hunter, but for most of the player base going at it, this quest will require a full 5-man. With that said, Blizzard may decide to remove this quest from Phase 2 entirely, as the item level is quite a bit higher than anything available from even Nomergon, making it incredibly important to pick up early on. Some alternatives to this chest is the Quillword Harness, which, as all rare BOEs go, will most likely not be cheap as the stats on this chest are very good as well. If you want something cheaper and easy to pick up, you can again just opt for some leatherworking options such as Tough Scorpid Breastplate or Nightscape Tunic. For the bracers, we have Forest Stalker's Bracers. Hopefully you finish getting exalted in Phase 1 with Warsong Gulch Rep, because these bracers will last you the entire phase and not just for pre-raid. Your next best option until you have reached exalted with Warsong Gulch is the Dusky Bracers. Luckily these are a leatherworking crafted item, so they should be pretty easy to obtain. For the gloves, you will want to use Gauntlets of Divinity. These will be an easy item to pick up as they draw from Scarlet Commander Mograine in Scarlet Monastery Cathedral, and since most of the player base will be dungeon grinding their way to level 40, you're more than likely to pick up a pair of these gloves before you even hit level 40. As everyone should have been leatherworking in Phase 1, just continue to use your Void Touch leather gloves until you replace them with Gauntlets of Divinity. If you didn't have leatherworking, you can purchase either Imperial leather gloves or pick up Pratt's handcrafted gloves from the Market Quality quest in Fairlass. For the belt, we have yet another rare BOE. Again, this probably won't be cheap, so keep your eye out on the auction house for one and pick it up if you find it for a good price. If you want something a little bit cheaper and only slightly worse for pre-BiS, then keep an eye out for a Scorpashi sash or Blackforge girdle. For the leg slot, we have Dragonflight leggings. These legs are a reward from a relatively easy quest in Searing Gorge, so this gear slot in particular is relatively free. However, if you are Alliance, you can get a quite better pair of leggings from Hinterlands. Griffin Rider's leggings are the reward from the end of a long quest chain that will be extremely difficult for the level, so I honestly wouldn't worry about putting the time into getting these leggings. For the boots, we have Blackforge Greaves. They are a green BOE open world drop, so you'll either have to farm mobs that drop them yourself or keep an eye out on the auction house for a pair when they come up. These will also be your Phase 2 BiS, so it is worth the gold if you find a pair just to buy them. If you want an easier option to aim for, then you can simply craft a pair of Dusky boots if you're leatherworking or have someone craft a pair for you. Imperial leather boots are also a great alternative, but similar to Blackforge Greaves, they're an open world BOE drop, so may as well just put your gold towards Blackforge Greaves if you find a pair. The rings are a relatively easy and free slot. Protector's Band as Alliance or Legionnaire's Band as Horde is your first slot. And since you should have been working on your Warsong Gulch rep in Phase 1, you should be honored by now and be able to purchase this ring right away. The second ring is Mason's Fraternity Ring. This is a simple quest reward ring from Zul'Farrak, so you should have no issues getting this ring right away as well. For the trinkets, we have nothing new or exciting here. For your first trinket slot, you're just going to continue using Avenger's Void Pearl, and for the second trinket, there really isn't anything to pick up before raids that's worthwhile, so you're just going to continue using a minor recombobulator for the health and mana boost whenever you need it. Now for the weapons. In your main hand, you will use Protector Sword as Alliance or Legionnaire Sword as Horde. And for your offhand, you will use Vanquisher's Sword. Both of these swords should be rather quick and easy to obtain, as your main hand only requires Revered Rep with Warsong Gulch, and Vanquisher's Sword is a quest reward from Razorfen Downs. As it should be relatively quick to obtain both of these swords, I wouldn't bother wasting any time looking at alternatives. Before we move on to the range slot, we need to cover one last detail regarding the melee weapons. Assuming you were an orc, your main hand and offhand will be different from every other class. As an orc, you will want to use Force of the Hippogriff in your main hand and Shovel Flange's Mining Axe in your offhand. Force of the Hippogriff is a quest reward from Weapons of Spirit in Fairlass. However, Shovel Flange's Mining Axe is a rare BOE drop from Digmaster Shovel Flange in Alderman, so coming across this weapon will not be easy or cheap. Last but not least, we have the ranged slot. As a melee hunter, we are finally blessed with a useful bow. Bloodlash Bow has a chance on hit effect to increase your strength by 50 for 15 seconds. This is quite significant considering the way it's worded sounds like melee attacks will proc this bow. It comes from the new Stranglethorn Veil PvP event, so make sure you take some time to join as many events early on as you can. If you have gold to burn, you could opt for buying a monolithic bow or sniper rifle of the Tiger until you get your Bloodlash Bow, But personally, I really wouldn't recommend spending your gold on either of those, and just get your Bloodlash bow as quick as possible. We've now covered everything you need to know regarding pre-raid BiS gear as a melee hunter in Phase 2. Keep in mind that achieving full pre-raid BiS is by no means necessary, as you can head into Nomegon immediately after hitting level 40 with whatever gear you had from the leveling process, and you should do just fine. Pre-raid BiS just provides you with something to work towards during your lockout periods should you choose to be competitive from the get-go. As always, if you found this video helpful, then please like and subscribe to the channel. You can find a link to my Discord in the video description below, as well as my Twitch channel link, so make sure you check them out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.